Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from learning from other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Sarah. Sarah often shares her story of being addicted to cocaine. She had a whirlwind of a journey down a road that no one would knowingly choose for themselves. Now, looking back, she is using her story to empower and encourage those in her world of addiction to crawl out and find their true north. Founder of the Facebook group Perpetual Motion, where she gives real hope to women who are ready to rebuild their lives after addiction. Welcome, Sarah.
What an intro that was. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I do the best. I do the
so
best
pleased
for the
to
best.
be here.
Good. I'm glad. I'm so happy to have you here. And I'm so thrilled that you are taking a little bit of time out of your day to sit down with us and share a little bit about your journey and all of the awesome, inspiring things that you have chosen to do with your life, despite of your past. And I think that your story is so inspiring because a lot of times people go through things in their life and then they kind of stay in this like little shell of a human because they don't feel as if they're worthy of doing anything because of their past. So I just love that you're just like, screw this. I'm doing whatever I want. And I'm going to make sure that my story helps other people. And I just love women like you.
Thank you. I just think, I was having a conversation with somebody this morning, actually, and I said to her, part of what drives me is that I fought a silent battle for a really long time, and addiction is one of those things that it's really hard to fess up to talk about, to even admit to yourself, right? Like, we all get that. And so to bring others out of that darkness, addiction thrives in isolation, right? And to help bring others out of that darkness, to make it safe for them, that is basically my mission. So whilst I don't enjoy going, hey, here's all the things that I messed up, essentially by doing so and owning that truth, I'm letting myself off of the hook for a start for the person that I have been that's got me to here. But also, other people can hear this story and think, wow, if she can own up to having had a drug problem when her child was 2 and under, then, maybe I can tell my husband that I do a bit of speed every now and again, or whatever it is for that person, and it just gives them some hope and comfort that actually this isn't the end of the road for them. It's just the start.
Yeah.
That is why I share so openly about all of the stuff. And it's not just the good stuff, it's the bad stuff as well. It's not all just sunshine and lollipops because you decide to quit drugs and choose a better life. Every day is not, amazing, but far more amazing than it ever could have been had I still been in active addiction.
Yeah, 100%. Let us all know before we jump in, where are you from? Where are we listening to you at?
I'm in Essex in the UK.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here. And I would love to just kind of start this podcast off by kind of giving you the floor for a few minutes. You can kind of give us an overview of, your childhood, teenage, adult years, and kind of the flow that happened within your life. And we're going to dig into some really awesome questions and, find out how you came out of that, where you are now, and all that goodness.
I haven't quite nailed the part of getting this story down to a really succinct 3 minutes, but I'm going to do my best.
Whatever.
Go ahead and just interrupt me if this turns into a long meandering diatribe, okay?
Okay.
So, from the TOP, I am one of 4. I'm the oldest of four. My youngest sister is 10 years younger than me, and I grew up with an alcoholic father and a mum who's very Christian, right? So my alcoholic father was Egyptian. He, was very set in his ways. In that sense, he was a Muslim, but he wasn't a practicing Muslim. But what that meant was when my mum would try and take us to church on a Sunday, there would be big stand-up rows in the street. He didn't want to take us to mosque, but he didn't want us going to church. And so from a very early age, Sarah created these beliefs. Little Sarah created these beliefs. It's not safe to have beliefs, right? We just keep it zipped and everything's okay. Alongside his alcoholism came, aggression and violence. It was a regular thing for me to be told, if you hear mummy screaming, dial 999. As I was growing up. Now, this has an impact on a small girl, obviously. I didn't realise this at the time. This was just my life. And that's how it is, isn't it? And so throughout my childhood, my dad would go to Egypt and he would say he was going for 2 weeks. And he would rock up 6 months later, which, again, little Sarah started to create these stories like, he doesn't love you. You're not worth staying in the UK for. You're not important enough for him to want to be our home. You must be really annoying, right? Obviously, I had no idea that I was making up these stories. I was just making the evidence fit, the scenario. Yeah. And so I proceeded to have these stories run on repeat all through my adolescence when I first discovered, speed and weed and, just kind of low-level stuff. Started to become a bit of a rebel without a cause. Now, at this time, my dad would take me to the pub with him at 13 years old, and I would smoke with him, and I would drink with him, and I would get absolutely white girl wasted, right? I'd be like 9 bottles of Budweiser at 13, 14 years old in my school uniform in the pub. And I thought it was ever so cool. My dad let me drink, yeah? My dad let me smoke. What was really happening was he was buying me off, making up for poor parenting, making up for the deceit and the lies that were a way of life for him, right? He was a compulsive liar. If you asked him what he had for lunch, he'd tell you had fish and chips, when really he had a pizza, right? Like pointless lies. Yeah. But that was it. And throughout this time, he was still going to Egypt. At one point, we found out that he had married somebody else in Egypt on one of these trips while he was still married to my mum. Had 4 of us here in the UK. Again, reinforcing the story. You mean nothing. You're not important. And then he died when I was 17. So that was when my love affair with drugs began. Now, it took me until a year ago to make the connection between my dad's death and the love affair with drugs, which sounds ridiculous in hindsight. But even when it was suggested to me, Sabrina, I couldn't even hear that suggestion. I would go absolutely apeshit, like to the point of like, how dare you? I never thought about my dad while I was sniffing coke. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do as a party girl. I like doing it, and it's only been with recovery and the healing journey that I've started to see, okay, all right, now let's face the real truth. And so I started taking ecstasy. My whole 20s was, in nightclubs and darkened rooms. And I discovered coke at that time as well. But I just, it was one of them things. I could take it, leave it, didn't really care about it. Wasn't my best friend, whatever. That was when I was 20. By the time I was 27, it was a necessity. And by the time the lockdown hit last year, I was doing like £500 every 10 days or something. Where I was getting £500, don't even ask me. I don't know what that is in dollars, say $600. This is a lot of freaking money. And I'm a single mum with a 3-year-old now. And it just all got too much, right? And what I realised last week actually was, and it was literally an epiphany moment last week, that lies really trigger me because they make me remember all of this backstory that I've just shared with you. And as I was journaling about it and realising that actually, my dad tried to buy me off with booze and fags, that it was a sense of abandonment that I had felt consistently throughout my life. And his death was just the ultimate abandonment. It was just one more, the final abandonment of them all. Wow. And I spent the rest of my life abandoning myself as a consequence. And I was just like, oh my God.
Wait, you figured that out through journaling? Like you started to journal?
I figured, if I tell you how I figured this out, Sabrina, you will actually piss yourself laughing, okay? I figured this out because my son didn't wipe his ass when he went for a poo. Okay, this sounds like a very random connection, but what happened was he didn't tell me. I went apeshit, like way more so than what the situation warranted, which made me look at myself and say, Sarah, what the heck is going on for you right now, girlfriend? Because he's a 3-year-old, yeah. And I realised that it was the lie that triggered me. And I was like, he's 3. He doesn't understand lying like I understand lying.
Yeah.
And then bam, I was like, oh my God, it's because your dad lied to you for your whole freaking childhood. And as I started journaling on that, I was writing, you know, what did I make this mean that he lied to me? And I made it mean all of the things that I just said. You're worth nothing. You're not important enough to stay in the UK, but I don't care about you. What you want doesn't matter. You're just a stupid little girl. You're not worthy of the truth. And I made it mean all of these things, and I was devastated. And I mean, this was literally last Sunday I realised this, not yesterday, last weekend, yeah? Or 2 days ago, last weekend. And as I was journaling it and writing it down, I'd written down the word abandonment, and all of a sudden I literally was like, oh my goodness me, this is like literally the reason for everything that has ever happened.
Wow.
I felt abandoned, and I have replicated that behaviour by abandoning myself for 20 years, hooked on class A drugs.
Wow.
Because of that. And I was just, honestly, the freedom that I felt from realising that truth was insane. But the sadness that weighed down upon me for that little girl who just didn't feel like she was anything important and has taken that belief with her into adulthood, I just was devastated. Only lasted a day, managed to get it all out. But since then, I realised maybe 2 or 3 days ago that what was missing from my life most was stability. And I sought stability in drugs. Drugs was always there for me. Drugs never let me down.
Wow.
Right? Drugs was the consistent in my life.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have it elsewhere. I've never had stability in my relationships. Of course I haven't. I was a cokehead. I was out my nut for days on end. I never had stability in my finances. Of course I didn't. I spent it on freaking drugs. Never had stability in my mental health. Of course I didn't. I was constantly on a come down. Right? And
Wow.
so the one thing that was stable forever was drugs. And so these are the realizations that are coming thick and fast at me right now, literally in the last like 8 or 9 days.
Congratulations. Wow.
That's huge, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I love and I believe that the reason that these have come to you is because of the work that you've been doing
Oh, for sure.
mentally and emotionally. People don't do that. And that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about is just, you know, why don't people dive into, you know, this stuff? Why do you think?
Because
that there's so many people that don't dive into like self-development or personal growth? What's your thoughts?
Okay, so like the immediate thing is that I think a lot of people are unaware that it even exists, right? Like I certainly wasn't 3 years ago, until I stumbled across coaching by accident, really. Like it never would have occurred to me to work on my mindset. Like, what the hell is mindset anyway?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've always been a student of life and would be one of those people that constantly wants to better myself. But to me, that looked like, you know, get a degree or, you know, learn another language or whatever. It never was internal work. I'd never even heard of the term inner work. Like, and so I think a lot of people don't know about it is one thing. Another thing is that it can be freaking ugly and messy. And, you know, Pandora's box is full of crap that we don't want to look at. It's in that box for a reason, right? So what crazy person is going to go, oh, I know, I've got a spare half hour. Let's go and have rummage around in some of my old crap that I haven't dealt with. You know, no one.
Yeah.
You know, but we know that once you do start to look inwards for the answers, like for me, it was a lifelong search of looking everywhere outside of myself for answers. Why am I like this? What's going to fix me? And I paid a lot of money on like theta healing and this and that and different, you know, all different holistic therapies and hypnotherapy and all the rest of it, thinking, oh, maybe this one thing will fix me.
Yeah.
The fixing came from me. I had to fix me. Yeah. Like I had to be willing to look at myself and go, okay, what is going on here? And what are you going to do about it? Like nobody could tell me that, could they? Only I knew. And I didn't think that I knew. But that was a convenient lie to help me to have an excuse to get on it.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. But it's a shame to me. It's a shame that so many people don't know about it. And that's part of why I do this. It's part of why I bring, you know, women like you onto the podcast is to continuously push the thought process of how important it is for us to work on our mindset, because we go through all this schooling, you know, and then college and then church, if you're, you know, any sort of religious type person.
Mm.
And never are we sat down and taught how to like deal with our inner feelings, our inner thoughts, our
Exactly.
communication, our anger. You know?
Exactly that. And so, I've had this rage for many years. Like, and it's not like I'm particularly an angry person, but there are times when I'm just like literally see red and it's like all hell breaks loose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never violent, but I'm a banger of things. I'm a shouter. I'm just going to say whatever comes into my mouth and you can deal with it. You shouldn't have made me angry
Yeah.
person. And then afterwards, I'm just like, well, it leaves me as fast as it comes on me. And because I know that I was just in a rage, I don't worry about it. But, the person on the other end of it is just like, you can't say that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't mean it, did I? Obviously. But you can't unsay it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've had to learn to be very careful because I can do a lot of damage with my words. I know that I can, and we all can. Yeah, like a word will stay with you forever. Slap is over and done with. But what people will say to you can change you forever, right?
Yeah.
And so in the same way, the good things that people say to you can change you forever, right?
Yeah.
And so like this rage has been something that I have just thought, well, it's just me. Yeah, it's just me. But realizing actually that rage came from a place of my inner child had been unseen, unheard, unacknowledged. Like, I didn't even know that I was her and she was me. I didn't even know she was there. I didn't know she was crying her eyes out every freaking day because she felt sad that her daddy didn't love her the way that she needed.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea. How would I know that?
Yeah.
And I think so many people got so many stories from the past that are running the show now, and they are unaware. And on the face of it, you just think, well, how is Chase like not telling me that he's been to the toilet? Led me to this massive epiphany. But as you said, it's because of the work that I have done on myself that has allowed me to have the wisdom and the insight to make the connections, to understand how to look deeper and to have the courage to look deeper and to be able to then do something with that information.
Yeah. 100%. I want to ask, in all of the years, from childhood through where you are now, what do you think was like the biggest challenge that you went through in your life? And then what did you learn from that challenge?
Right. Where to begin with that? The greatest challenge, I think, has been for me in recovery, in all honesty. Like, there's been many different challenges and trials and tribulations, but drugs has always got me through all of them. Anything before I discovered drugs, I don't really remember. And anything since I discovered drugs, well, don't really remember that either. Do you know what I mean? But what I do know is that drugs got me through it. And so recovery has been the biggest eye-opener for me because I've had to find ways to identify what I'm feeling, feel it, be okay with feeling it, not try and change what I'm feeling and wishing it away or pushing it down or sleeping it away, smoking it away, drinking it away, sniffing it away, whatever it is that I chose to do. Like, just going at it and going, okay, this is it. Let's go work. Right. And just finding ways to show up and be okay and be consistent and forgive myself. Oh my God, that's been a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Because that Sarah was highly unreliable. She was not, I was never a bad person. Do you know what I mean? I would never have sold my mum for crack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But equally, I didn't turn up for her 60th birthday. Like, my whole family was there. My brother and my sisters didn't show up. I was on a bender.
Wow.
Things like this. And it's just, there's been a lot of reconciliation with myself. And some of the stories that I share online and stuff, I'm just like, God, what are people going to think? And then I think, actually, I've made peace with me for this, and only God can judge me. Yeah. So if you're listening to what I'm saying and it's not resonating, that's cool. You're not my peeps. I send you on your way with love. You don't need to talk me down in the process. Like, I'm just here trying to do my best with what I've got now.
Yeah.
And it's taken a lot of work to go, like, look back and not want to punch myself in the face for some of the things that I've done. But I have to thank that version of me because she got me to here.
Yeah.
She got me to here, and it's been a long and windy road, let's say.
Yeah.
But without all those experiences, those falling off of the wagons, those lies, that deceit, that guilt, that shame, that self-hate, all of that, I wouldn't be the coach that I am today. I wouldn't be the leader that I am today. I had to have all that in my artillery in order to be able to help people in the most true and authentic way.
Yeah, definitely. How long have you been sober, by the way?
11 months.
Yes.
Yeah. 11
Is
months.
that
So
the,
I
is
do
that the
drink.
long
I do drink, but I just don't sniff.
is that the longest that you've been sober?
Uh,
Oh,
yes. Well, actually, no. I tell a lie. While I was pregnant, I didn't sniff. And then for about 3 months after he was born, so probably maybe about 13 or 14 months in total.
wow.
But,
So you stopped doing drugs while you were pregnant.
oh my God, yeah, of course. Of course. So I found out that I was pregnant at about 5 weeks, which was a result of one night stands. So not something that I had planned, wanted, factored in. And when I found out, I was horrified, absolutely horrified. Had a panic attack, called a doctor every name under the sun, and proceeded to go out on a 3-day bender after booking a termination immediately. Went out on a 3-day bender and literally didn't eat or sleep for those 3 days, just constant binge of coke and booze and cigarettes. And then the reality kicked in, the come down came, the sobriety came, and I was like, you just cannot end a life because you want to carry on partying. Like, are you that person? Like,
Wow.
no, you're not. And so from that instant, that was it. I didn't do it. And it was so easy to me. My child just was everything. And I realized that actually, as horrified as I had been just 3 days beforehand, this was actually the universe delivering me the gift that I needed to save my own life. And which then showed me that part of my drug taking was because my own life hadn't been worth saving to myself,
Yeah.
which was another big freaking eye opener.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so Chase came and saved my life. And so the least I could do was give him
Yeah.
the best chance in life, and they just, I wasn't that person, and it's a judgment-free zone for me, but for me, I couldn't have done it. And I gave up smoking immediately, I gave up drinking, everything, it wasn't a problem at all, not one craving, not one withdrawal symptom, nothing, absolutely nothing. And so I had this drug-free life, but I was full of hormones. And so it was really, trying to get through things. Like, there was a lot of firsts is what happened. So it was like the first anniversary of my dad's death without drugs. And now I'm like heavily pregnant. Like, what's going on? You can't make sense of nothing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been doing all the firsts again this year, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But without, child inside.
Yes. So your son's name is Chase? Is that what you said?
It's Chase, yeah.
Yes. Why Chase? How'd you pick that name?
I just love it. I'd heard it many, many years ago on a movie or something like this, and I said to myself, if I have a boy, I'm going to call him Chase. And so he was always Chase to me from the minute I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, please let it be a boy, let it be a boy, let it be a boy. And I really wanted a boy, and I just felt like it was a boy. And I said it's going to be Chase. My sister said to me, how can you decide he's going to be Chase? Like, he might not look like a Chase. And I'm like, girlfriend, it doesn't matter what he looks like. He's going to look like Chase to me because he's been Chase since like the day dot. Like, literally dot.
Wow, that's cool.
And he looks like a Chase, I think.
Very cool. I like that name.
Yeah, he gets told it all the time. It's like, that's a
Yeah.
cool name. And I'm like, it's because you got a cool mum, kid.
Yes. Yes, 100%. There's people right now who are listening live. I want to thank actually the people who are listening live. Thank you so much for being here and joining us and listening in and supporting Sarah, her story, and the Her Version platform. But I want to ask you, Sarah, obviously there's people here that are resonating with your story. Either it's their own story or they know somebody who
Sure.
is in addiction or active addiction or sober. But I want to ask, for those who are possibly listening now or on the replay, who are struggling, who are relapsing, who are fiending, whatever word you want to use for that. What were your steps? What was your 1, 2, 3 to get from where you were in addiction to where you are now? Mentally, emotionally, mindset. What was the main 3 steps that you took just to give somebody an idea of, I mean, where am I supposed to even start? Can you give us an idea of where to start?
Sure. I'll try my best, but I don't know if it's going to be a simple 3-step process. Okay. So the first step, as far as I'm concerned, is to admit it, right? Admit it to yourself. Even if you don't tell a single soul, Just admit it to yourself. Like, some of the problem with addiction, as far as hello, sorry, I lost you there. I think my
That's
Wi-Fi
okay.
went down. So sorry. I
That's-
think part of the problem with addiction is that we don't know that we're addicted until we try and quit, right? And that's when we first get the alert. And so, you know, to admit it is a huge thing. And I didn't admit it for a long time, mainly because I thought, well, people are going to expect me to do something about it if I tell them. And I ain't ready to, quite frankly. Right?
Yes.
So know, yeah, know that your strength is going to come from you. Okay. Like, anybody trying to coerce you or guilt you into it, it's not helpful. Actually, it's not helpful. It's got to come from you. So for me personally, I always say to my clients and the people that I help, you know, don't try and do this until you are ready, because otherwise what's going to happen is potentially you're going to fail. And if you fail, then you're going to get more evidence that you can't do it. And then that stops you from trying again.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Wait till
Yeah.
you are ready and then admit it. Admit it to yourself. And, you know, and when you can, share it with somebody and start to try and seek help. And there's all different pathways into recovery. Okay, you don't have to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. You don't have to go on XYZ meds. You don't have to anything. Okay, you are in recovery if you say that you are. Yeah. And there's so much support out there. So always plug into a recovery community, I would suggest. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, know that not every day is going to be a walk in the freaking park. Some days the voice of addiction is going to be on you. And this is really the key to the second part, right? Is to separate yourself from your addiction, right? You are not your addiction. It's not you. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we hear this voice in our own head, in our own voice, and it's so seductive, it's a trick. It's a trick. It sounds like you think it's a good idea, and it's freaking not. This is your addiction speaking, and it will tell you things like, it'll be okay this time. You've learned your lesson. You won't stay up all night. You will definitely turn up for work tomorrow, right? We'll call it quits at 10 o'clock. No one will find out. All of this bullshit is lies that your addiction will feed you, and it is not you, and it is not true. Okay? It is never a good idea, but it happens to all of us. All right.
Yeah.
So the way that I've combated this step is to make a list of all of the pain that getting on it has ever caused me. Right. So things like not turning up at my mum's 60th, going out on 3-day benders when I was married and turning my phone off, and, you know, being threatened with divorce, etc., etc. You know, picking up my son from nursery out of my face, etc., etc., etc. Really spend some time creating this list, because you're going to want it. All right.
Yeah.
And it's hard, I'm not going to lie. It's hard revisiting some of the things because we just don't really want to look at them. They're a bit cringe. But do it, okay? Do it and keep it to hand, because when that voice starts piping up in your ear roll, telling you that it's a good idea, you're so tired. There's no other way. How are you going to get through it, right? All of that crap,
Yeah.
you're going to want your list. Because when you can go to your list and go, okay, you know what? The voice is telling me this, but here is the evidence that that is a crock of shit.
Yes.
Right? And you can start to see, okay, you know what? The voice is telling me it's a good idea now, but what's really going to happen is that it's going to run out faster than what I want. It's going to end up costing me a shit ton of money. I'm going to pick up my son from nursery out my nut. I'm going to probably not sleep tonight. I'm going to wake up tomorrow, be moody and irritable and aggy. The only way out of this is to remedy it by self-medicating again, which means I'm on day 2, and so on and so on and so on. If you can start to fill in the blanks after the immediate, what seems like a good decision, you'll soon put yourself off. Okay, that's the idea of this one.
Yeah.
And the third step, I guess, is just to keep going, yeah, no matter what. So, you know, there may be times when, okay, you know what, you cave in and something happens, and I'm not going to make that okay and say it's part of recovery. It's not. It's part of addiction. Okay. However, the story is yours to write from that point. Either you use that as your excuse to go back and crawl back under that rock of darkness and isolation and addiction, or you say, do you know what? That was then. This is now. I'm just going to start again. And you just keep moving forward. because your story, like, the best is yet to come, but you'll never see that
Yeah.
unless you stay in the light.
Yeah.
Unless you stay in the light, and nobody can judge you. Nobody can judge you.
Yeah. I like that you're saying the best is yet to come, because I think people forget about that. They forget that, they're in a
Yeah.
dark spot right now. So doing the next right thing mentally, emotionally, health-wise, will only provide you the best.
Sure. And the thing
Yeah.
is, I think, Sabrina, that it's important to mention here is that, sometimes the best comes disguised as something really shit going on. Like,
Yeah.
we sometimes have to go through a bit of a struggle,
Yeah.
or we have these bad patches, or we kind of hit the skids and everything kind of goes wrong, or we, lose our job, and you just think, what is this?
Yeah.
I didn't get clean just to endure this. But
Yeah.
actually what's happening is it's a gift. There's something in there for you to learn, some lessons, some experience, someone you're meant to meet, have a conversation with, there's always something that
Yeah.
is going to help you to reach your next level. And until you learn what that thing is, it's going to keep happening. So this thing with Chase not wiping his butt had happened like 3-4 times. And I was like, why does this keep happening? And now I
Yeah.
realized the reason it kept happening was to help me to make the connection that we've already spoken about, And so this is what I mean. Like, that was the best thing that could have happened. But at that time, didn't seem like the freaking best when I, confronted with that situation, shall we say. But
Yes.
it was the best, and some days are not great. Wake up and I'm just like, I'm tired, I'm irritable. I don't feel like freaking being inspiring, right? I don't feel like showing up and, like, shining a light today. I just don't. Like, yeah, I'm going to do it anyway, because I know that actually by helping others, I'm helping myself. And by sharing, I'm healing. And that's what it's all about. That, knowing that every day doesn't have to be something that you wake up and go, oh my God, yippee, I'm alive.
Yeah.
It's good when we can. But
Yeah.
some days you're just not going to. That's okay. There's still things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything apart from what we make it mean. So
Yeah.
just know that you're okay. You're in the right place all the time. You're right where you're meant to be.
Yeah, definitely. As far as you and your journey and everything that you've been through, what do you think is the number one lesson that you've learned about life?
About life.
Mm.
Okay. I want to say that I think life is what you make it. Right? And that just sounds so freaking cliched. Like, it sounds like such an easy answer. But it really is, because if we are willing to do the work, and willing to be more conscious about how we make our decisions, and about how we treat other people, and about how we execute our mission,
Yeah.
right? Then we get to choose how we show up. We get to choose who we be. We get to choose how our life looks like. And I think there's a lot of kind of pity parties and poor me, and like, oh my God, worries me. And it's like, well, hang on. Like, I appreciate you didn't choose to be homeless. However, there's
Yeah.
a series of decisions that have maybe contributed to this, or things that you can do to improve your mindset, which might help you to want to change things, or whatever. That was just an example, and I'm absolutely not talking about homeless, right? But you know what I'm saying here? Like, it gets to be how we choose it to be. Like, we choose how we respond, is what I
Mhm.
mean,
Uh-huh.
right? We
Yeah,
choose how we respond. So we can't choose the circumstances, but we can choose how we respond to them.
definitely. How do you think your son has benefited from your journey that you've been on?
Oh my God. So the mum that I am now is just, it's unrecognizable. So it's important to say, he never went without. Okay. He never went without. He was never, hungry, or he wasn't played with, or any of that stuff. He's had an amazing life, right? But equally, there were times when I was tired and I was ratty, and, I was going to come down, and I just couldn't be asked, right? Of
Mhm.
course, you expect that, if your mum's doing coke 3 or 4 nights a week. And so for him, I've been able to be much more present now, and just enjoy doing the things with him. So a lot of things would take a back burner whilst I was in active addiction, by which I mean things I'm being paid to do. And so then, it'd all get left till the last minute, and then I'd be trying to do it while he's there, and it'd be like, you've got kids, haven't you?
Yeah. Well,
when it's like,
I have an 18-year-old now, but yeah.
You're trying to do one. Okay. When you're trying to do one thing and you can't get to the end of this freaking one thing without like, and it drives you demented, right? But I had to say to myself, Sarah, it's your own fault. You could have done it while he was at nursery, but you were too busy doing other things. And you chose to have a life like this, like with him at home a couple of days a week, so that you could watch him grow up. Or telling him to shut up just so you can send an email is not, it's not creating memories with the boy like you envisaged. And so the mum that he's got now, every Thursday we have Mummy and Chase Day of fun. Oh. So we go out and we do things together, and we go to the zoo and we go to tumble tops and all sorts of fun stuff, like an intentional, deliberate day just for the two of us to do fun stuff, which he loves. Like, I've really seen him, come out of his shell a lot, and he's never been shy, but really step into his own character and his own personality from having that dedicated day that's just for him, and for us to do stuff together to build our relationship. Like, so that's one thing. Or like, I'm much more patient now, much more able to sit him down and explain, look, you're only 3, but Mummy gets really cross when XYZ thing, and this is why. And I don't know whether he understands it any more than what he would have done. But before, it would have been like, just shut up. You know what I mean? Where now I'm much more tolerant and more energetic, and, much more mindful about what I say and what I'm showing him. So he also has the rage, right? Which we spoke about already. And he gets very frustrated, and he's only 3. So part of that is that his emotions are developing and he doesn't know how to express them, and doesn't know what to do with them, can't even identify them. And I get that, but he's a chucker of things, and it would be fine if this was like, a soft toy. But when it's like a great big massive Paw Patrol truck, it's not so good. And so, I've suddenly realized that actually, if trauma can be passed down through the generations, then surely so can healing, right? And so it's become more important to me to heal my own stories, so that the generational trauma ends with me. It doesn't get passed down. Like, I've already passed it to him. I can see that. I can see the rage, and that's come from me. I know that. And so I'm much more aware of how my work on myself impacts him. Yeah. Through me healing myself, not necessarily through me showing up as a better parent, through me being more conscious about what I'm doing with myself. Yeah, definitely. Wow. Well, that's awesome. And I'm so happy that he now has you, as far as the new and improved Sarah. I want to say, for sure. I want to ask, as far as, you mentioned, your... Sorry, my signal keeps going. Oh, that's okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Nope. Yes. Can you hear me now? Ooh. Yeah, I can. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. That's okay. It happens sometimes. It's normal. I'm used to it. I want to ask what you do for business, though. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Sorry. I don't know what's going on with my signal here today. That's okay. Can you see me and hear me now? I can, yeah. Okay, awesome. I wanted to ask what you do for business. What do you do? Yes. I know that we have your Facebook group listed above your head. Yes. What else do you do as far as, coaching and mentoring, within the addiction community? Can you talk about it a little bit? Can you say that again? Sorry, that just skipped. Like, you started off saying one thing, and then I think I heard the end of a previous sentence.
That's
Say that
okay.
again.
I was saying, can you tell us what you do for business and what you do within the addiction community to give back?
Sure. So I am a trained recovery coach working towards my professional recovery coach designation. So I have completed half of the training, and I'm certified with that. And so for me, my business is about, how can I help with your recovery today? How can I help with your recovery today is basically what we lead with. And I also am a trained business coach. I'm a life coach, spiritual mentor, all sorts of things. So the spirituality piece for me is huge, because that is kind of what led me into recovery, basically, when it did. And without it, I don't think I would have had the tools and the resources and the insights and the openness to being able to understand how to help myself. And so spirituality is kind of the foundation of my business. So I am a coach. I help people really to rebuild their lives after addiction. Quite often we think, okay, now what? Like, there's this
Yeah.
massive gap where our
Yeah.
drug habit used to be, or this massive gap where our alcoholism used to be, or whatever. And it's like, okay, now what do I do? And I know for me personally, like, I came flying through the doors of recovery, and I was like, oh my God, this amazing new life, and I've got all of this energy and all of this desire to pay it forward. And now what? Like,
Yeah.
there's so much help getting you up to that point of giving up, and then you give up, and it's like, and there's somebody there to go, okay, well, let me take you by the hand and show you how to figure out what to do next. Let me show you what options you've got. Let me show you different resources that you can plug into. Let me teach you things. There's
Yeah.
nobody there doing that I could find. And so I thought, you know what, this is my space. This is my space. So I'm really just helping people to kind of figure out what it is that they really want to do with themselves and work out a way to create that life that they want to live, and I'm teaching them about different spiritual principles and techniques and divination tools and all of that stuff. I'm plugging them in with different recovery methods and communities and stuff like this, and just being that safe space that is there for them to express themselves however they need. It is a journey. Like, I'm 11 months in. It took me 11 months to find the answer to why I was like I was. This is not a one and done kind of a job.
Yeah.
Quite often it can take a long time, and that's cool. And you just need somewhere where you can go, where you're not going to be judged, and it's a safe space, and someone that's going to work alongside you, be a cheerleader, and walk the journey with you, not in front of you, not behind you, alongside you.
Yeah.
And so that's really the foundation of my business. I've got a podcast, and I run various programs. I've got a program that's starting this Friday, actually. It's called Awaken, which is a group coaching program. And my next step, actually, Sabrina, is to start my own recovery community. So I'm super excited for this, because I myself did not plug it into a recovery community at all when I first went into recovery. It was only through my recovery coach training that I suddenly became connected with all of these others on the same journey as me, and the difference that it made was phenomenal. And so I realized that there's lots of free communities out there, free fellowships, free sisterhoods, whatever you want to call them, out there. Awesome. And they are brilliant. And I take nothing away from that. But mine is going to be something different, because it's a place where I'm going to show up as freaking me. Like, we're abandoning all these niches. Like, do you want to be a business coach, a life coach? You've got to fit in this box. Bollocks to the box, right? We ain't doing none of that shit.
I love it.
Life is different for all of us, right? I can't be any less of something just because I have to, have a clear marketing message. Like, I'm done with that. So this is a place that I'm building. I know that I'm a leader, right? I know that people feel safe with me. I know that people listen to me, right?
Yeah.
And so this community is going to be a place where people can come and swap stories, where people can come and make other friends with people that are just like them, a place where we can have workshops, we can have events if we want to, we can build this thing together, so it can be whatever we want it to be. And it's just going to be like a sanctuary, a place where there's no judgment, and where you don't have to have done any XYZ criteria in order to, tick some boxes, right? It's just, have a bad day, you come to us. You have a good day, you come to us. You want to just chat about, what you've done today? Sweet. If you want a bit of help with your recovery, sweet. If you want a bit of accountability, we got you. If you want to learn some business skills, let's do that. So it's really going to be something different, something really completely unique. I'm going to call it Recovery Central, because recovery is central to everything in my life.
I love
And, you know, for so many others too. Yeah, so
that.
that is currently being birthed. So it's going to be a paid membership, paid on a weekly basis. It's going to be something silly cheap because it's going to be less than what we would have spent on drink and drugs, because I'm just like, you know, there's so much free stuff out there, which is great. But when you pay for something, you show up for it differently, right? You value it more because you've paid for it. And if we could pay, well, for me personally, at least easily £100 a week on drugs, then I've got £15 a week that I can put towards my own recovery, towards my own wellness, towards my own growth and development. And, you know, if you want someone by your side to help you dive into all this crap and figure out where did it all go wrong, this is the place.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So is this going to be a group or is this going to be a website? How are you constructing that?
So I'm thinking to create it on Facebook, or maybe on Telegram. I'm not sure yet. So it's going to be, as I say, a paid community. So it will be paid weekly. There's no contract. Don't like it, you don't have to stay. No problem at all. I know you're going to love it. And so it will be like an exclusive group. Let's say it's Facebook, just for argument's sake right now. Okay. Facebook group, pay, you get into the group. There's going to be content there for you. There's going to be different ways to engage with each other. There's going to be, you know, kind of place to share stories. There's going to be a place to learn stuff. There's, you know, and it's going to just grow and evolve as we go, because I don't want to come from a place where I'm like, right, I think you need this and this and this and this, and I create all this content because, you know, I'm not going to know what people want or need until they're there and we start having the conversations.
Awesome.
So I'm very aware of that. You know, I don't want to bring people in and go, if you come here, you're going to go away with X, Y, Z, because I don't know what you're going to go away with. What, in the sense of like tangible results. But what I do know is that you will get the benefits of a community, which means somewhere where you belong, somewhere where you feel welcome. It's somewhere where you can feel safe and held and supported, somewhere where you'll get accountability, somewhere where you'll be seen, heard, and validated.
Yeah, that's great. Wow, I love that. I love that. I love everything that you stand for. I love everything that you're doing.
My signal gone again.
Oh. Can you hear me? I love everything that you're doing within the recovery community. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I want to ask, what does success mean to you?
Ooh, there's a big question. Success means that I'm happy. Just means that I'm happy. It means that I have transcended the level of worrying about shit and giving myself a hard time about things that are just of no consequence. Like, at the end of the day, does it matter if my jeans are size 14 or size 16? Like, does it matter if Mrs. Miggins down the road said my hair looks ridiculous this colour? Like, you know what I mean? That's what success is to me, is just being okay with me.
That's great. Absolutely. And as far as, you know, speaking directly to the audience, we still have quite a few people hanging out here with us live. What would be some advice that you'd give to females who are possibly struggling, you know, with finding their authentic self? You know, a lot of times people get into this world of addiction because they're scared of seeing who they really are, or actually adulting, actually doing life and everything that comes with life. What would be your advice to somebody who's kind of struggling with that authenticity of themselves?
I think first of all is not to give yourself a hard time. Okay, like, just know that there's not anything wrong with you, right? It's just your way of coping. Now, you might not be able to identify in the right here and now what it is that you're struggling with. Like, I had no clue, as I said, that what I was struggling with was a sense of abandonment from childhood. I, for a very long time, was in denial about the fact that my drug taking was linked to my dad's death. You know, you may not know right now what it is, the reason for your doing whatever it is that you're doing that's a self-sabotaging behavior, right? But recognizing it and being able to admit it to yourself is a huge part of the authenticity journey, right? Is is being able to just say, okay, right, this is really where I'm at. Being able to take a look at your life and say, this is really where I'm at. And maybe just try and find one small thing that you can think of right now that you can do to undo that, if you know what I mean. So maybe your thing is, well, I drink a bottle of wine at 5 o'clock every night. Push it back to 6 o'clock and have half a bottle, just small things.
Yeah.
Small things. It doesn't have to be, you have to go on Facebook Live and tell the entire world that you've been doing X, Y, Z things for the last 10 years. Well, you can if you want to. I mean, I freaking did. Yeah. But it's just about small incremental steps. And I think sometimes we see where we are and we see where we want to be. And we look at this great big yawning gap in the middle and we're like, there's all this stuff that I don't know. And I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I don't even know who I am if I don't get on it anymore. And how will I go out for a night if I haven't got drugs? And, we see all this stuff that we don't know, right? And we get so caught up and overwhelmed by this big thing in the middle that we forget that all we really need to do is just look at that one step there, right? Just take the one step every day. Take the one step, right? Because you take one step today, you take one step tomorrow, take one step the next day. In a week's time, you're going to have taken 7 steps. Or you can continue looking into that great big gap and thinking, start tomorrow. And in a week's time, guess what? You're right where you are now, right? Yeah. And so if you can identify just one small step, the next one often becomes beautifully illuminated as you take the first one in faith, right? Yeah. And sometimes the step that is your next step isn't always immediately obvious, right? So an example of this might be, you might think to yourself, okay, I want to quit drugs, right? I want to quit drugs. So what step can I take today? And your brain might say to you, go and buy a cat, right? This is just a ridiculous example, but bear with me, okay? Go and buy a cat. And you think, what the fuck's that got to do with my recovery or giving up drugs, right? But on the surface of it seems ludicrous, right? But really, maybe somewhere in your head, or you've told your friend or something, when I've given up drugs for 6 months, I'm going to buy a cat. I'm going to buy a beautiful, expensive cat. I don't know anything about cats, so I don't know what an expensive cat is, but bear with me, yeah? And so it's kind of like the universe or God, whatever you want to call it, saying to you, okay, you know what? If that is your symbol of success, then let's get it now. Act as if, because having that cat here with you right now will make you feel as though you're that successful person 6 months down the line who is going to treat herself to a cat when she's given up drugs for 6 months. Do you understand where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
That you bring it into the now and you treat it as if it's now, and that's your next step. So although it seems ludicrous, actually there is a reason for it, and we don't always have to know the reason.
That's awesome. It's awesome. It's good.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I totally appreciate that, and I so understand what you're saying, and I think that that's a great example. And I love cats.
I do not. I absolutely don't. I've never liked animals, Sabrina. So since I had Chase, right, like, he has taught me so much about myself, and this is part of one of the blessings, isn't it? Like, of me giving up drugs and being open to learning more about myself. I've never liked animals. I've never had a pet in my life, ever, 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 ever. My mum never did, and so she didn't like him, and she passed that on to me. And then I've had him, and he's like a little mini Doolittle. The squirrels like follow him around the park, and like he's just like, "Mummy, look at that beautiful pigeon," and I'm like, are you for real? Right, it's a freaking sky rat. But he's taught me about love, respect for nature. Like, now I love taking him out to see the animals, and we look at bugs and insects, and I don't want to just kill them and get them out of my house. I'm like, wow, look, a tarantula, my bedroom. Wow,
That's great. That's great. Yeah, children do definitely bring another level of awareness.
Yeah.
Is fun. Yeah, I always say
so
that.
I just thought actually of some more advice, right? I just thought of some more advice, and it's to use what's going on around you to give you clues as to what's really troubling you, right? So in the same way that I was able to use Chase going to the toilet and not telling me to identify the root cause of 20 years of freaking drug taking, that is available to you too. Granted, my coaching training and all of that stuff, and the way that I've done it myself has helped me to be able to do that relatively easily. But here's what you do in a nutshell, right? Whatever it is that you are going at, right? Take a look at that and try and unpick it to the point where you can say, okay, all right, if it wasn't the actual thing that happened that's troubling me, what is it reminding me of? What's it making me think of? What is similar to this that's happened before in the past?
Wow.
Right? And start to do a bit of digging. And you might have to do it a few times before you get to the real answer. But very rarely is it the thing that's actually in front of you that you're responding to. It's some unresolved shite that is just trapped inside you that we don't even know is there because we spent so long not looking at it. But with a bit of introspection repeatedly, you will get there in the end. And so if you want answers, they're all there. But you've got to be willing to go looking for them. And it does take a bit of digging, and it does take a bit of patience, and it takes a hell of a lot of courage. But you've got this.
Yes, that's awesome. I so appreciate that. Well, listen, Sarah, this has been phenomenal. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day to sit down with myself and the community here. Your story is so inspiring. I'm so proud of you, everything that you're doing within the recovery arena. And I'm so proud of the mom that you are evolving into, and all of the work that you are doing is not only going to help, your son and the generations to come off of your line, but also just the people in your world, and the people who come into your world and get the help from you. So I so appreciate you being here. Is there any closing thoughts before I close up the podcast?
Closing thoughts is just honestly know that you've got this. Even in the times when it seems impossible, when it seems like there's no way out, when it seems like, God, this is literally, nothing can get any worse right now, right? That you are always held and guided and protected and loved. And this is not the end of your story. It absolutely freaking isn't. And you are in charge of that. Yeah. So just know that you are worth it. You are worth saving your own life for.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I so appreciate that.
That's it.
For those of you watching live, we so appreciate you being here and hanging out with us, supporting the community. And Sarah, for those of you watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so that we know that you were here, and so that we know that, or so we can send you some love. This has been the Her Version podcast. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, make sure you reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others